Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. Just doing a quick channel update here, let you know what's going on. As you know, I did some videos on Global 40 and a big series on 39 from Historical Board Gaming. And I've been in contact with them, and they would like me to do a series on 36 and the Global War 36 to 45, and this is going to take a while. It is quite the adventure. This is not something you'll just set up, play, and take back down. Very in-depth game, very involved, lots of great stuff happening, and I'm not even going to get into it right now. This is just more of a channel update. But what I've done is I got the files and I went and printed color copies here and just put them in protective sleeves. But they've got some real fantastic things here. The charts, very clear, very easy to understand. If there's any, persnickety little rules that you need to know, they're very well written up, very clear, very concise, and they put some nice World War II images in there to make it look really good. And really spices up the book here. Even something like a player distribution chart, depending on what's going on, how many people you have playing. Just everything's just really bold and colorful. So if you are going to play this game, I highly recommend using the color printer. I just went to Staples. I just saved these on a thumb drive and took them to Staples, and off we went. It was a lot easier to do it that way. And just beautiful colors, like I said. Oh, my phone's whistling at me. But they've got, objectives for the Allies, different things here, some U.S. objectives, and it's all so well laid out here. So all the NOs of all the different countries, just very, very nicely laid out, and the bonus points that you get from each thing. So we're going through this pretty quickly. Not going to get too much into much of anything. The thing you got to realize is that this starts in 1936, so there is no war at the time globally, although you do have Spain having a civil war and China is having problems with the Japanese. But beyond that, there's not much going on. And so there's a lot of options that can happen. And that's what I love about war games, is because war has absolutely countless options. Then it's very important to, for me anyway, if you're going to do a historical game where you want to mimic reality, that you do have a lot of options. And again, you'd have to have that balance. It's been spoken of by many, many people. Where do you balance the historical accuracy with the gameplay ability? And that is an absolutely valid point. And I think Global 40 does a great job of that, and 39 has a great balance because I love playing those games all the time. This one here, I don't know enough about it yet. I'll be getting into it and studying it this summer and doing a video series on it probably in July, maybe August. This is a spicy meatball. The one thing I do want to point out though is the production chart. Now, in most iterations of our war games, Axis and Allies, you just pay for something and it's the cost, but that goes up with the better units. But you just plop them on when you buy them. With this one here, there is a phase, okay, for our stages, pardon me, for different units. So if you want to put on ship and facility production, if you want to make some transports, subs, and destroyers. Yeah, you just put them in there, and at the end of the turn, you just put them on. But if you want to build something bigger, say a battleship and a fleet carrier, and you can see it's different from a light carrier, but if you want to build a battleship or a fleet carrier, now you've got to put it here in the 4-stage units box. And at the end of the turn, it'll move to the 3-stage units box, and then to the 2-stage units box, and on it goes. Alright, and you pay the production price each turn. So for instance, it's just got something here that says, for the example about the cost, it says a cruiser, we're just reading right there, listed as 4-4-4 costs 12 IPPs and takes 3 turns to complete. So each turn you're paying 4. So you could, start building the cruiser, pay for it, and at the end of the turn it moves to the second stage, but the next turn you find you need your money on other things, that cruiser will just sit there in the second stage until you decide to pay the $4 to move it to the first stage, and then $4 more to move it off. Okay, so it's a very interesting way of building some of the bigger units, and really makes you think long term. So that's what they're trying to do there. They got technologies I won't get into right now. Whole bunch of great things. Again, the colors really help bring out the technologies and really make them stand out. And it's easy to get things going. They've got a lot of stuff like advanced anti-sub warfare, strategic rockets, some of the other things we have: radar, wartime economy, improved factories, shipyards, and such. Okay, Lend-Lease is also in this, like it is in 39. The one thing that I am going to tell you, though, this is not Axis and Allies. It doesn't have that title, doesn't have that name attached to it. This is part of their Global Command series, and my understanding is that it's going to stretch for a long time, from the mid-19th century way into the 21st century, if all the games kind of get tailed together. And I think the goal will be to, based on what the game was. Let's say you're doing a World War I game, and depending on how that goes, there'll be an interwar game, and then 1936 will take over. And depending on how things went in some other wars, that'll really affect how the next war begins. So it's just going to be a fantastic, great adventure, or you can play them as standalones, of course. Okay, here's the battle boards, and of course these are just in the rule book. The actual battle boards would be larger, and again it's a D12 game, so things go up to 10s here. Anyway, just a really nice shot of D-Day there for amphibious assault rules, shore bombardments, things like that. It's just probably one of the nicest looking rule books I've ever seen. Really impressed with it. Well worth the money to print it out in color. Really is. Okay. Germans smoking. That's why they lost the war. Bad for your health. It's more of the phases. Sorry for zipping through here, folks. Trust me when I do my actual thing here. Hey, it looks like the Hilltop Pillbox. There we go. We have a nicer front yard, I think, though. And here are some historical events that you have in the game. Okay, they take place during the 1936 scenario. You got your Spanish Civil War, which I spoke of, the Chinese Civil War, which I mentioned, but also the Abyssinian campaign. That's where the Italians decided to get a little persnickety down there in Africa, because Mussolini wanted to have some fun, and they go invade and do pretty well versus Haile Selassie and his guys, who were basically chucking rocks, until the British showed up and then sent the Italians packing. So alright, some stuff on the Chinese Civil War here. A lot of little rules there to look at. But the one thing I do like about this is, although the rule book is long, the print is large. So it's very easy on the eyes. I don't look at this and squint, because it's very large print. Looks to be 14, might be 12 in some spots, but it's typically a very large print. So it's not like reading a boring history textbook or something. And again, the visuals are it's really easy. Okay. They also have your additional optional rules here. And the one thing that they encourage, if you go on their website, you check on the different rules for different units. After every page where it talks about rules for units, you scroll down and it says, hey guys, these are rules that we've come up with, that we've tried and they work, but if you come up with some different ones, hey, go for it and let us know. Let us know what they are. So it's really nice, really nice. They even have some stuff here about Germany's annexes things during the 30s, and different countries will fight against the annexation of their nations. Some other strategy points for everybody, for every country, including the Spanish Republicans, Communist China, all the guys that people never do videos on because they either don't exist or they're pretty insignificant. So they've got some ideas for what to do with them. Here's Italy and the States, nationalist China. Okay. And here's some notes here that kind of echo what I was talking about earlier, the playability versus realism. All right. And the nice thing about this game, it appears at first glance, is that it's very, very open to, it's very alive. It's a very living game. So things can ebb and flow as time goes on. Some rules might be done away with, some might be adopted. Kind of like in the original Axis and Allies, Mr. Larry Harris made, you know, battleships were $24, and nobody ever bought them until somebody said, hey, we should make them 2 hits. And still people didn't buy them, so they dropped them to $20, and then people started buying them again. So things will change, but this has been around for a few years. This isn't like it just came out, but it's just first time somebody's probably going to do a major video series on it. Some other nice things that come with it, they got the quick reference card. Again, I printed that out in full color. Want to make sure I have that. And the reason it's not called Axis and Allies is because there are actually 3 areas of control that we need to talk about. We have the Axis, of course, we know who they are. We have the Allies, and then we have the Comintern. And as you can see, these are nations that align to the USSR, and Mongolia, and Republican Spain. So if the Republicans win versus the nationalists in Spain, that'll be kind of a Soviet territory. Okay, so it's kind of some interesting things, interesting options there. And the Comintern is its own group. I think there's a page, I kind of glossed over it a little bit, about if you have a certain number of players. Yeah, it's right here. Alright, so playing with 2 players, whoever is the Comintern will also be the Allies, because they obviously were allies, but we also know that they were ambivalent allies for a lot of the war. And as soon as you get to 3 players, the Comintern becomes its own entity. So hopefully that's coming through on the video, on the camera. Yeah, just a really, really great idea. With 8 players, even if there's an 8th person, what they do is as you can see, even for 5-player games, they split up the Western United States and the Eastern United States because they have a healthy enough economy and enough to do that they operate as separate entities. So that is a very fun aspect of the game. Okay. Far East Command and Anzac get lumped together if there are 7 players, 7 or 8 players. So they're recognizing that you're operating in the same theater, so you can support. All right. All right, and hope you're not getting seasickness from me going back and forth. They also have just all the quick reference about how different combats work, how convoy raiding works, which is a little bit different in this game. I'll definitely do a thing on the map once it arrives. And yeah, just looking for a great experience here. And the other neat thing, if you're wondering what's the end game, there it is. This is the as turns go along, you can roll a die, and if you hit any of these, the game ends, right, on a D6. So in July 1944, you know, if you roll a 1, that ends the game, and you add up your victory cities at that point. So it's kind of an interesting thing. That is obviously, you know, if you want to do it, but again, you can do it if you want. The other thing I like about this, and I've printed out the full color maps and everything, full color charts, pardon me, is the setup charts. It tells you everything you need to know about each of the countries. Okay, there's very little guesswork at all, if any, that tells you what you're trying to do, tells you your bonus incomes. There's wartime income and peacetime income, and they're obviously very different. All right, and it tells you what you need to do at various times, where things need to be at certain points. Okay, and you know, like in 1939, place of German Ardennes, Austria, Sudetenland, Slovakia, and now they're starting forces to set up. Right, so there you go. You just put in some stuff because 1939 you're at war, but we also know that Slovakia can push against that if they want to. There's turn phase listed here. The order of play is just listed at the bottom. It's fairly similar to many. So Germany, then the Soviets, then China, like Communist China goes with them. Japan, Great Britain, Far East Command, Anzac, Free France, France, Italy, US, and Nationalist China. So the States goes last in this because in 1936 they really were not ready for a war. And here it's got all the stuff you need to know about what you're buying, and has all your specialist units. Okay, so you can see that not everybody could buy a Tiger, and not everybody could have SS Panzer Grenadiers. So they've put it again on their charts. Again, just beautifully made. There's no doubt as to what's going on. And you can see that with the air units, there's variations now. We have fighter, attacks, and strats, but there's also medium bombers and air transports, which are in there. It's got your tech advances, all that sort of stuff. The C units, all right, you've got some few extra ones in there, all right, and then your setup chart for what it looks like in 1936 is right here. Again, beautiful, nice, big, clear, no doubter. You know exactly what you're doing. And then on to Italy, and there you go. Okay, so that's, I put the Axis and the strict neutrals. I guess I'll point them out because the strict neutrals actually, almost everybody has something in this game. And there are ways that you can try to align them. So with Argentina, there's a whole deal here that they can align with Germany. Okay, once Germany's at war. And then off you go. Brazil, Bolivia, they can all align, like the US can align with them. And so they've got all of these ones in South America that can align. And in Europe, you know, you got your Austria, your Baltics, your Belgiums, is there two? Anyway, you got all your other ones here that get set up once things are going, once things are at war. They all mobilize. All right, and they got everything. So every country that had pretty much anything to do with anything ends up mobilizing stuff. Now, sometimes it's not much. Like Saudi Arabia mobilizes a militia, and Yemen mobilizes a militia, but it's something that's in there. And anytime there's something, you get enough something together, you can cause some grief. Okay, stuff in Asia, right? Stuff here in Europe again, Asia, Europe. And just great charts. The Spanish Civil War, 1936, is the kind of stuff that goes on there. The nationalists and the Republicans are beating each other up. And then when you get to World War II, if you're going to do the World War II with nationalist Spain, there you go. They get a bunch of stuff there because obviously they won the fight thanks to the help from the Germans. Okay. And here are the build charts for the minor powers. It's pretty simple stuff. And then I've got the Allies, the Comintern I've put in here. So the Soviet Union and the Communist China. All right, China CCP. Okay. And they do all their thing. And then on to the States. Again, I'm not going to go through all of those, but you can just see how beautiful these sheets are. You know, you got a picture of the old hood there before it became a reef. And just it really brings you into the war too. So for those of us who can't put up a beautiful place to play like Der Künstler or some of these other guys, yeah, you can bring a little piece of it here and bring a little piece of it home for yourself. So that's just a very quick look at Global War 1936. Again, I will be doing a bigger review on it as soon as I get the map and I start plugging away at it. But I look forward to doing that. It looks like a fantastic game. And so until next time, folks, hey, have yourself a great day, keep smiling, and may the dice be with you.